If you're a musician who has never improvised before, but you want to get started, here's some advice that'll get you on the right path. Now, if any of you have seen any of my other videos before, you'll know that I'm very, very big on the idea that learning jazz is like learning a language. Jazz is a musical language with its own unique vocabulary. You have to treat groups of notes like phrases that you know will work in very specific situations, like this. Now, that was an example of a phrase that fits over a concert B-flat major chord. And so, every time I hit a B-flat major chord, I know that this is a piece of language that I can use when I'm improvising. So as jazz musicians, when we're improvising, we're often drawing upon thousands of phrases that we've worked on or explored in the practice room beforehand. And so you can think of improvising like having a real conversation. When you bump into your peers or your colleagues or your friends, you're not having a conversation that you've pre-rehearsed or practiced together beforehand. You're effectively improvising with the English language or whatever other language you're conversing with. And it's the exact same thing with jazz. You don't memorize or pre-rehearse the exact improvised solo you're gonna take, but you practice and you learn the words and the phrases and exactly what they mean and where they belong. Okay, now that we've established that learning jazz is like learning a new language, the obvious follow-up is, how do you effectively learn a new language? Now I want you to cast your minds back to when you were a baby. Seriously though, think about it for a second. When you were a baby, what was the way that you learned your first language? You listen and listen and listen and listen and copy. All of us as babies were like little language sponges that learnt by listening and copying. And it's the exact same process. So the first thing to do if you want to learn to play jazz is to get a healthy listening diet. You just have to listen to it non-stop and become the language sponge that you were when you were a baby. And I'd even suggest making active listening a big part of your practice routine. Start every practice session by sitting down and listening to a whole track or a whole album and writing down every single thing that you hear. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it dense or is it sparse? What's each instrument doing? Who solos and when? What's the shape of the solo? Does it build? Is it rhythmic? Is it tense, simple, angular? You name it. These are all the sorts of things that you should be listening for every time you listen to music. And now once you're listening to enough jazz consistently, that's when we move to the copying part of the process. Now this is what we call transcribing, and in a nutshell, it encapsulates the whole process of learning jazz. Now conveniently, I just put out a video on transcription, so if you want a step-by-step process on how to effectively transcribe, click the link here. Now, I have one more final piece of advice for anyone who's serious about getting into jazz. And my advice is that you just have to go for it. You have to let go of your fear of making any mistakes. I've quite honestly played thousands of wrong notes, but that's the beauty of the music that we play, is that it's more about intention and vibe and energy than it is about playing quote unquote correct notes. If you really, really want to play it, and you're serious about learning it, just get in there and go for it. So on that note, good luck, and I'll see you next time.